Welcome back to Idle's Library, where I talk about a list of books based on a theme that I've assigned for the month. This month is my birthday month. Hi, I'm an August Leo. Celebrating the whole month long. Alright? So this month I've decided the theme I'm going to talk about are books from my childhood that I don't really see a lot of people talk about. That kind of fits into why I'm currently dressed as Jack from Jak and Daxter, because it's a game that I loved playing as a child. And also I have a show tonight, so it happens to be cosplay themed, and I finally figured out a number to fit with my Jack cosplay. So, two birds, one stone. Having a lot of fun today. Having a lot of fun this whole month long. First up, we have Princess Charming from the Princess School series by Jane B. Mason and Sarah Hines Stevens. This was a book that I got from the book fair in elementary school. And the series, honestly, I did not read any of the other three books. I saw Princess Charming and it being about a princess who sneaks into the night school, and I was like, I need to read this book. I want to read this book. So the series follows Cinderella, Snow White, Rapunzel, and Briar Rose as they attend the princess school. But this book actually deals with Rapunzel, who has been helping one of the princes learn how to joust and get better at jousting in preparation for the tournament at the boys' school. Thing is, the prince that she was helping has gotten a little bit of a big head because he's really good compared to the other boys, but he seems to have forgotten how he learned all of this, and girls aren't allowed to compete. So she sneaks in as a knight, sneaks into the boys' school. Her friends are covering for her at the princess school, and decides to take him down a peg. As you can imagine, one of the other issues for Rapunzel specifically sneaking into the boys' school is, what in the world is she going to do with all of that hair? So overall, this was a favorite when I was younger. I've read it to the point where the spine is really beat up. It's a short read. It's just I read it in elementary school, so one of the earliest chapter books I read. Moving on to the middle school books, I want to mention that when I was in school, I had a bit of a high reading level, which was I sometimes wonder, what does that even mean? There were some books that I read that maybe I shouldn't have read in middle school. I should have maybe had to wait until high school. But, it is what it is. I devoured books. It was a form of escape at undiagnosed ADHD. Hello. But so the next book would be The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia A. McKillop. This book stuck so well in my head I couldn't remember its name. I felt a lot like Sybil having to find the name of this book in order to get myself a copy, since I checked it out of the middle school library, read it in a few days, and then returned it, and then realized how much I loved this book. I should have remembered its name. This was the book that really stuck in my head, the power that a name can have, because one of the one of the very important like plot points is Sybil has this power where if she learns the name of like this nearly forgotten creature from legend, she can call it to her. It's a power that she picked up, that she learned from her father, and it's a power that she eventually teaches the child that is brought to her to raise. The creatures that she has in her care include a dragon, there's a falcon, there's a boar, she spends a lot of she's trying to find the name of this albatross throughout the book. But one of the other things that she's had to learn is this power that she has. If people in power want to use it, it can have devastating effects on the other people in the kingdom. Most of her life she is spent in solitary, like in her own world, where it was either her and her dad or just her up until she's 16 up on this mountain with all these creatures. And then as far as she's concerned, some guy shows up with a baby and is like, raise this kid. She doesn't know what to do. She's like, I'm 16. What? Also, I don't want this. Why? Why? She has to get help from there's an old woman further down the mountain who ends up helping her with nursing this baby. And she warms up to this kid. She teaches him, she raises him, and then one day the guy comes back and takes the baby, takes the kid. He's old enough now to go do what the people that took him up here want him to do. There's a lot that happens in this book. It has been a minute since I've read it. She moves off of the mountain eventually, and that's when she like discovers how much her power could be used for things she doesn't want it used for. All she cares about when she leaves the mountain, all she really cares about is how is this kid that she sees as her son, how is her son doing? Is he okay? Is he happy? Is he safe? What is this world that he's now been thrown back into? What is it like? Another book from when I was in middle school was The Hero and the Crown by Robin McKinley. This was a book that I got from the public library near where I grew up. And it shouldn't be that big of a surprise, considering how I started this list, that this book that I enjoyed this book as much as I did, because it deals with a princess who, due to the fact that the court that she's a part of, the kingdom, they don't really know what to do with her. They have this rumor that her mother was a witch who seduced the king and then was so devastated that she gave birth to a daughter and not a son that she passed away. So we have a princess who has no mother, who is kind of ostracized by the kingdom. What she ends up deciding to do with herself, to just have something to do and feel like there's something she is good at, is she figures out over time how to slay these dragons. Because there are, so this is the kind of universe where there used to be these big dragons that were absolutely a terrible force to have to deal with, destroying towns and all of that. Most of them are gone. As far as the kingdom is concerned, they are all gone. All that's left are these small dragons that are mostly just a pest, a nuisance. There'll be a casualty of a couple soldiers who try to get rid of it, lose some sheep, lose a horse. Annoying. But not destroy whole towns annoying. Just, they're a pest. She finds a recipe for a salve that she has to like work out what the missing ingredient is, but there's a salve that can make her fireproof. She works with her father's old war horse who has a bum leg. So he's basically a 3-legged horse. Through a lot of trial and error, she gets to where she's taking out these small dragons. So she's doing something for the kingdom, and the kingdom seems to warm up to her a little bit as she's handling this thing that they find very annoying. And then word comes of another dragon. This one is huge. Its dragon fire is hotter than anything that she's had to deal with. It is bigger than anything she's had to deal with. We're talking like one of the great dragons that they have stories about, but nobody has seen in this lifetime. She battles the dragon. She barely makes it out. But the thing is, defeating the dragon, it's an important point, but by defeating the dragon and bringing its head back home, she might have doomed her kingdom to a different fate than Dragonfire. And she has to go and figure out what to do to help her kingdom. There's a I'm trying to figure out how to word what he is. He's a grumpy, like, immortal guy who is like, hey, you shouldn't bring the dragon head back. That's dumb. It has all, no. That's what they wanted you to do. Who's they? Well, the dragon was just a little bit of a heads up that worse is coming. Something that's interesting about this book, I checked it out of the library before I knew about the book that it's actually the prequel for. So it's a prequel for The Blue Sword. I can honestly say now, because I've read both of them. I read The Blue Sword in high school because I saw it and was like, that's the same, that looks very similar to The Hero and the Crown. Why do you look similar? So I read it and I was like, are you the sequel? Turns out order of publication Hero on the Crown is the prequel. But they're so far apart that they read well no matter which order you go in. Like, it's the kingdoms are, it's the same. You can see where the legend of the Blue Sword is coming from. You can see some of the, like, where some of the culture of the kingdom in the Blue Sword originated from. But some things, they're different. It's so they're pretty far removed from each other as far as time. But of the two, the Hero and the Crown had a stronger impact for me personally than the Blue Sword did. Because honestly, if I hadn't read the Hero and the Crown, I might not have had the same reaction to the Blue Sword that I did. That's just because of order when I saw them, you know? So this next book might be the one exception in the list as far as books that people have talked about, and that's because it is a classic. And that would be King of the Wind by Margaret Henry. So this book, I am pretty sure, was in a box of horse books from one of my cousins. I grew up reading a lot of horse books. Like, a lot of horse books. But this, honestly, it's a good story. One of the things I love about this copy specifically is the illustrations. King of the Wind was also another book that I would go back and reread. Although it doesn't have the same level of damage as Princess Charming, because since I was reading it in middle school, I took better care of my books. Basically, this is the story of the Godolphin Arabian. So the Arabian that a lot of the best thoroughbreds can trace their bloodlines to. It's just a good story, and it goes from the sands of the Sahara to the French court to the stately homes of England, and it's like, so it really, like, got to the history nerd in me. It got to the horse lover that I am. Oh no, this was just a good book. Alright, so this next book, I have no idea where I got it from. It could have been from the book fair, but I actually don't think so. I don't think so. It could have also been in that box of books, a box of horse books that I mentioned. But this is Chase by Jesse Haas. And so this is another case of an example of my love of historical fiction from an early age. It follows this boy who, he grew up in a coal town, and in this coal town, there was just a day where he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he sees someone get murdered. And the people who did it know he saw it. And so he has to run. He makes a break for it. He hops on a train. He gets going. He doesn't wait. He doesn't stick around. He's just running. Come to find out, there is someone on his trail. This someone has a horse that is like a bloodhound, seems to be popping up anywhere he tries to rest. He doesn't know if the person coming after him, if they're with the guys that he saw murder someone, or if he's working against them. He doesn't have time to stop and figure this out to figure out which way it is, because if he stops and it turns out he's helping the murderers, he's dead. You know? So it's a lot of, like, you're worried that if he's going to make it or not. You don't know what is up with this horse. Like, honestly, kind of think Maximus from Tangled, but we don't have the knowledge of if his writer is a criminal or a guard. Like, we don't know. Slightly less personality than Maximus, though. It's just that one scene where he's, like, sniffing around. Like, that's this horse. Like, honestly, it was probably one of the most thrilling books that I read at this age. So at this point, I'm sure y'all know that this means I have another blind box from Miniso. And I'm excited. I'm always excited. I love these things. So this one is the Mischief Alliance by Nami and Hemi. So we've got very cute on the front. As far as these options that we have, honestly, I think the one that I would... So, as always, I like the look of all of these. If I don't like the look... If there's, like, ever a point where I'm like, I really don't like most of these, I don't pick up the box. That's just a rule I have. I don't pick up the box if I don't like most of the options that could come out of here. But, if I had to pick, I kind of hope I either get the Apprentice Witch or the Carrot Slayer. So, let's see what's in here. Let's see who we get. Alright, we got our little ring. There it is. Okay. Yeah. Ooh. Oh! Ah! We got the ghost. We've got the Candle Ghost. Which, honestly, I am not upset about at all. Like, she's got a little ghost in her eyes. If I can get it to focus. A little ghost in her eyes and on her cheeks. And on there, and she's got a little ghost on her leg. She's got a cute little outfit, and she got a little candle flame up there. Like, yes. Very adorable. Very soft, too. Like, very soft. Also, little ghost face up there, too. Yes. Very, very cute. Honestly. And a little tail, too. It's like a little ghost cat. I love the details on these. Like, so cute. They're so adorable. Alright, so next up we get into the books from when I was in high school. And a big thing that happened was, while middle school you see a little bit more of the historical fiction and maybe some more complex fantasy happening, high school, for reasons that make a good bit of sense, is when I start getting into romance. specifically getting into the same kind of romance that my peers were getting into when they were reading Twilight. But I wasn't reading Twilight. So to get started with high school years, we have Dearly Departed by Laia Habel. I want to mention that this is part of a series, but it is a series that will, as far as I am concerned, as far as anyone, there is a second book, and then that's it. It is an incomplete series. It will likely never be completed. If I remember correctly, book 2 ends on a cliffhanger. So does book 1. But this book I got at a bargain price from Books A Million with some, like, birthday cash or something. Like, this was probably one of my, like, first book purchases. And it made me, like, really keep an eye on that section. Specifically the bargain section in the back, or the racks that they keep outside the doors on occasion. So this book, it's post-apocalyptic already, alright? So humanity went to war, destroyed the world's rebuilt. There's a lot of steampunk. A lot of steampunk. Kind of, like, Victorian-ish setting that our main character is from. But with a lot of steampunk, like, steam-powered things. They are at war with these people who are outside of the wall of this place. They have been at war with these people for a while. But the government hasn't been completely honest. Because it turns out this war with the people outside the wall it hasn't been actually an active war against those people for a minute. It has actually been a war fought by both the main area that has the wall and they're zombies. They're fighting zombies outside the wall. The government has been trying to not tell anybody because they have the wall. Zombies aren't getting in here. There's no zombies in here. Nobody here needs to know about the zombies. We just keep fighting them, and then eventually we'll handle that and get back to fighting the people we want to be fighting with. No need to tell anybody. Except for, people that we need to send outside the wall to deal with things. Our main character's dad is like a doctor, scientist. He's been working on trying to figure out a cure. Like, top secret, need to know information. She doesn't know this until he disappears. So she's dealing with all that. She finds out because zombies make it in and are trying, and they kidnap her. She gets kidnapped by zombies. Because they're the smart zombies. They're the smart kind of zombies. They are still sentient. That's important. Because honestly, it's kind of Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies meets Warm Bodies. Yeah. Zombie romance book, yes. Take that, Edward. She actually falls in love with an undead guy who helps her argue for the civil rights of the more sentient zombies. Which I guess would give it a tiny bit of I Am Legend as well. I know, vampires, but just little bits and pieces. But yeah, I was definitely developing an interesting route as far as romance. That's just what was trending anyway, because again, Twilight was a thing. My opinion on that would be Twilight should have stopped at book 1. Personally, if it had been a standalone, cool. I don't see why we needed all of that. I read books 1 through 3. That was it. That was all I could really deal. That's all I really wanted to read from Twilight. Yeah. I only read book 2 because I made myself read the sneak peek in book 1 and decided, you know what? Fine. What happens? I think it could have been a standalone and I would have been fine. But books that I think pulled off the romance series very well would be Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr. Okay, so different romance series that was that I read around when my peers were reading Twilight. Like, honestly, they were all fighting over Jacob and Edward, and I'm over here going like, I have all the choices, because Wicked Lovely was a series that went from, each book followed a different set of characters they all knew each other, or they were all connected at least to the characters. They were traveling in the same groups. Okay? And it had to deal with fairies. I bring this up because the next book on my list is actually book 2 in the series. And that would be Ink Exchange by Melissa Marr. So Ink Exchange follows a girl named Leslie who, she doesn't know fairies are a thing. She's dealing with her own stuff. Her dad sucks. Her brother sucks. Her brother's friends all suck. She is counting down the days when she can move out and go to college. She is saving up her dollars because she wants a tattoo. She is working as a waitress to try and earn some extra money. She has been delayed in her tattoo money, partly because of having to cover some of the bills at home. Like, there's a lot about Leslie's life that she did not have a great life. But she saves up enough for the tattoo, and she goes to pick it out. She has a good relationship with the tattoo shop owner named Rabbit, who she has no idea is part Fae. She doesn't know he's part Fae. She doesn't know that his two sisters, who also are around the shop, are also part Fae. She doesn't know that some of the tattoos that he's been working on have been for the Dark Court, because they've been trying to find a different way to feed after the events of Book 1, stabilize things for humanity, but makes it harder for them to feed on the emotions that they need. So they have been experimenting with infusing these tattoos with fairy blood and tying humans to members of the Dark Court. They're trying to see if they can do it, if it causes harm to the mortal, does it cause harm to the Fae? What are the risks? What are we dealing with, right? Leslie picks a tattoo, and it ties her, without her knowing, it ties her to the king of the Dark Court, Ariel. And oh, when I tell you that I was side-eyeing my friends who were like Edward versus Jacob, because I'm over here going like, Ariel. That's the one. That's the one I want. I like Ariel. Like, we're talking the romantasy love of the Shadow Daddy. I was there at the beginning. Okay? Ariel. Every time. Part of the blueprint, in my opinion. Part of the blueprint that not many people seem to talk about. They released a special edition of the Wicked Lovely series that has illustrations in them, and I have it. I do. One of my... I looked at the inside of Ink Exchange because they have Leslie and they have Niall, who is another important character, by the way, okay? It's a love triangle. And we're talking an actual love triangle, by the way. Anyway, they have Niall in there. I see Niall, I see Gabriel, who's like Ariel's like second in command dude. Like, no Ariel. And I'm like, why? Anyway, Ariel, King of the Dark Court. Niall, he's an interesting character because he's been advisor to the King of the Summer Court for a while. But prior to that, he and Ariel have history. They have history. It is complicated. Very complicated. They know a lot about each other. Ariel knows more about Niall than Niall knows about Ariel. Partly because Niall is in denial about certain things. Ariel's like, we are the same. I know these things because I am these things. What? But yeah. They have history. And also, they are both drawn to Leslie. This that is why I say this is the book that introduced me to like a true love triangle where at least two of you have to be a little bit gay. In fact, spoiler, Niall and Uriel end up basically together while Leslie goes to college and figures out her life away from the two of them. Like, very healthy end to this book. Like, yes, go to college, have your own life, get away from whatever this was. You two be gay. They still have a lot to work out. It's not perfect. It's not happily ever after yet. We see glimpses of them later in the series as the two of them are working their thing out. They're building trust that wasn't there the first time. Alright, so finally we have another book that I got from the bargain area at Books A Million one day. In fact, this one was like on the $5 rack. Like, cheap. But it's A Princess of Landover by Terry Brooks. This is another case of it's part of a series, but I didn't know it at the time when I read it, okay? So it's like revisiting his Kingdom of Landover series years later, meaning there's 5 books prior to this. But those 5 books are following Ben Holiday, whereas this book follows his daughter later. And so you don't need to know what happened in those 5 books to read this book. In fact, it does a pretty good job of filling you in on that information. Honestly, each of the Kingdom of Landover series does a good job at filling you in on that information. So it's a bit of, if you pick one of them up by accident, not knowing that there's others, you'll get caught up pretty quickly. Okay? It's clever if you pick it up not having any idea. It's a little annoying if you're just trying to read the series all the way through. But this was the first book I read this was the first book in the series I read. This was the first book by Terry Brooks I've read. And honestly, it's another case of we have a princess who doesn't really want to do princess things. Noticing a trend here. So she got sent to this prep school here on Earth. Because Ben, he's from here. He was a lawyer who bought a Magic Kingdom from a holiday catalog. And his friend and law partner, was like, you're dumb. Okay? Turns out the Magic Kingdom is real. And he is now king of Landover. Flash forward, he sends his daughter to a prep school. But she doesn't want to be there. She wants to be in Landover learning magic from the court wizard. Which, as I've read a little bit more of the series, I'm like, that is a choice. I know he's nice and he's interesting. But magic is a little wonky. for him, you know? So that's interesting. So she gets indefinitely suspended. And Ben has to go get her, bring her home. So she's like, all right, so I can get back to what I want to do, right? And he's like, no. No, you need to learn some responsibility. I need to figure out how you're going to learn some responsibility because we can't be doing this. What are we going to do about this? So, he decides what the best thing we're going to do is send her to go reclaim, rehabilitate, figure out what is going on with the Royal Library that has been neglected for years, since before he got here. Like, okay. She's not a fan of that at all. Also, she gets word that one of the local nobles wants to marry her. And she's like, no, I don't like that either. No. So she decides the only course of action is to run away. She's going to run away. Avoid it. We're going to avoid this. Which, hate to break it to her, it makes her a little bit like her dad, because when he first got here, he did avoid some hard things. When he first got to Landover, he tried to avoid some hard things and was like, nope, Landover has other plans. And it's the same thing that happens with her. Landover has other plans. It's like, we're not going to deal with the noble. He's not part of what we actually want you to do. Actually, we do want you to work on this library, though. How do we get you here? So she has to deal with the Go Home Gnomes, who are they're a hilarious species in this kingdom. Like, they're called Go Home Gnomes because people usually are yelling at them to go home. Because they have a tendency to find things that aren't theirs and be like, finders keepers. Yeah, this wasn't being watched. Like this bag of coins, I found it. Where did you find it? Well, I mean, it was in this guy's pocket. But that doesn't mean it's his. I found it. No one was guarding it. There's no name on it. It's mine now. So she has to deal with those. There's a hot librarian. Again, high school was when I got into romance, okay? There's honestly a reason when I read romantasy, I'm leaning more towards the fantasy with a romance subplot than romance with a fantasy backdrop, because I like romance to a point. I like romantic comedies as long as they can make me laugh. I like romantasies if you can really pull me into the fantasy. Like, and that book set me up to look for more of the Kingdom of Landover series, which there's not much of it. He didn't write a lot about Landover. Most of what Terry Brooks is known for is Shannara, which because of how much I have to read, I don't have an interest in reading Shannara. But I am working my way through Landover, so here we are. Thanks for watching August book list for Idle's library. Honestly, it was great just talking about some of these books again. Like, I could go on about some of these for a while. If you want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to link in the description. I now have a Patreon where I post the sneak peek of the list that I'm going to go over. And yeah. Once again, thank you for watching. This has been Idle's Library.